Hello, hello.
Hey, new music. I feel so mellow. I just feel so like
Ah,
my anxiety is
I don't know. I
my
can't get
bed,
behind the new music. It's not. It's not as like. Yeah, it's sort
my
of rocking
bed,
and
my
rolling.
bed's right over there, and that's the kind of music I would play if I was en route to there.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So it's like we need that jazzy music. We need like the commercial was, but like, what did we used to have? We used to have something that was pretty bouncy. Well,
yeah,
they got
but
rid
they
of it, right?
changed it. They I think maybe that's the license to. I don't know. They changed it. So I was like, okay, we're gonna need to come up with our own buy
I'll
license
make
and
something.
music or something.
I'll make something huge with Suno or something. Just to. Oh, actually, there are Google tools now that can make like music from
So
nothing. Right?
I mean, the someone asked me the other day actually what the tune was that we used for the Flutter community for this stream, right? For the Humpday stream.
Yeah.
That was actually made for us by one of the community members.
Oh. Oh, cool.
Maya or Jay, as we know
Mhm.
him by. So yeah, I think he's working for VGV now. I'm not sure actually. I haven't spoken to him in a while. So hopefully he's still doing his thing. He's doing some DJing on the side and coming up with his own tunes and stuff. So
We
Nice.
could never afford the license, but we should totally make our intro music the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground, you know?
I don't know that one.
Oh my gosh. How do you
he's,
not Oh
he's
my
not
Maybe I'll
American.
probably
gosh.
recognize if I
He's
heard
not
it.
American. All
Yeah.
Americans have heard it, but that's the
Oh
problem.
yeah.
He's not
Or maybe
American.
maybe I've heard it then, but I don't know the name of it.
I can't. It was sort of a B roll player. It wasn't really like an A list.
All right,
person.
let's go for some introductions and then we can kind of crack on with the show.
Go.
So yeah, my name's Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me at Dev Angels London on most social medias. Randall.
I'm Randall Schwartz. I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert, one of the 100 and so around the world. Been that way for about 7 years, and what that means is I get to spend a lot of time answering y'all's questions on various social media like Discord and Stack Overflow and Reddit and places like that. But I also am the question magician for this show, which means that I am watching the live chat, and if you put a Q colon in front of your statement, that turns into a question for us, and I flag those, and we go through those one by one as in the order that they're received. If you duplicate a question again later, you lose your place in line. So don't duplicate the questions. We have seen them, unless they had a URL in them. We have seen them. If you have a URL, don't put it in. We won't see it either. It's just going to be gone. That's probably enough. Go.
We'll go for some instructions on how you can post some code and content in just a moment. Danielle.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Cox. I am the Flutter Tech Lead at a startup called Ardly, and I also am one of the organizers of the Flutteristas. So usually we can see, a couple of us around in the chat even. So I haven't seen anybody yet today, but hi if you're there. And if you happen to be female or non-binary, and you are interested in Flutter, which obviously you are because you're listening, then hit one of us up, and we'll get you in there. We have monthly meetings, and at least that we aspire to, and go from there. So anyway,
find out more on flutteristas.org.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, John can't be with us today, but we really do appreciate his work on the Flutter community meeting, which he manages. Instead, we have a step in Matthew. Matthew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Matthew. I go by Makeronator on the interwebs. My main way of finding me is on my YouTube channel. So just look up Makeronator on YouTube, and you'll find all the weird and silly stuff that I build with Flutter. And I actually am hoping to have another video out later today. So yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. It was going to come out last night, but then I still need to make a thumbnail for it. So yep. So exclusive new video. Yep. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. And apparently you're Flutter's most dashing gentleman, according to your handle.
Yeah, there was one person who voted, and it was my mom. So,
Oh,
yeah.
You didn't have to bribe her, huh?
Much.
There's a joke there. I'm not entirely sure where it is, though. So,
yeah, step back from that
wasn't
one.
Funny.
That's a minefield you don't want to jump into.
Yes.
Randall, do you want to do the quick, just very brief?
Yes, right. Yes, I can do this. I only read a few of the words. It makes it faster. So be nice, be respectful, be constructive. You are speaking to actual human beings in the chat, not bots, so I'm not sure that I'm not a bot. Still trying to figure that out. Also, don't post anything if it's adult content or rude or offensive. We have ban hammers. We will use them. Don't advertise or promote anything. The only people that get to promote things are people with their face on the screen. So if you want to promote something, get yourself booked on a future show. We are very open to having guests on the show if they have something to say. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again and again. It's just boring. Please, come on. And we do have ban hammers for that stuff. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated here. Again, we do have ways of making you get away. But do have a good time. We have a good time sharing what we know. That's why we're back week after week, telling stuff to everybody that we can. And that's why I spend all day, every day, at least little bits of minutes here and there, answering y'all's questions on all the various outlets. There we go.
And also, we also have a way of you posting code. So, if you're on stream and you want to share your code with us, as someone already has, what you need to do is go to just.new, pop in your title description wherever you want. Make sure your file name's .dart, so you get the syntax highline. Pop in your code. You can always put a comment in there with your question and whatever else. And then pop the hash. So that's 0.6 here. It highlights in the URL. Once you press publish, grab that hash from the URL, pop that in the chat. If you post any links, like the full link to the gist, we won't get the entire message. So be aware. You need to make sure that you limit to just the hash alone.
Yep.
Right. Is there anything else I've missed there we want to cover?
We've actually had a request already today. That's just the hash. So I guess that's what it's related to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All right. So we've got about a dozen questions, or we're getting to it. So do you want to?
I mean, we could dive. We could try and dive straight into them. I thought, I don't mind.
We could. In fact, the first one.
Is there any news anyone's got from the Flutter sphere that we want to talk about or anything?
New beta was released yesterday. 5.39 or whatever. It's 39.
Yeah.
Something. 39.
Everyone, we spoke about this a bit during the Flutter Europe conference. It came up a few times, which is a lot of people have stopped, trying the beta because they're working in production environments. They're working to get some production version of Flutter. It's really critical that everyone tests all their code with the Flutter versions, so the beta versions before they get pushed to the release, because that's the final chance that we get. You can't complain that, Flutter upgrade broke my code if you're not going to try it on the beta. Come on, we're developers. We know this stuff, right? So get on that beta. Just do Flutter, Flutter, Flutter checkout beta, whatever it is. Just try it. Try it. Report any issues.
Or use Puro. That's how I do it. So I maintain multiple versions.
Or FBM or whatever. Yeah. But I'm saying,
Puro is the way. What did you say the version number was again, Randall?
It's something 39 for the next beta.
I thought you said it started with a 5, and I'm like, wow, we skipped from Flutter 3 all the way to 5.
Yeah, that's right. 339. Right.
All right. So I mean, let's just jump on with the questions, I guess. Okay. I've got that code snippet up here somewhere. Let me dig it out, and we can sign up.
I need to look at the updates for the beta version. Hopefully, it has some of the multi-window support in, because I need that for the next project. But
so actually, it's something that I want to touch on as well.
That's okay. So we have questions ahead of the
do we?
Bit of the URL thing. Looks like it.
Jump on the questions then.
Sweet.
Oh, weird. The starred list is not in. Oh, it is in numerical order. Okay, so first was free. Okay, right. So that's this first, right?
My live chat has stopped loading.
Oh no!
Right.
Yuck.
Be right back.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, the last.
But we can't really talk about Simon because
it'll be gone.
Recorded. So
he'll be able to see it.
I thought we only exist as figments of Simon's imagination, so I was wondering why we still existed when Simon went away.
Sure.
We should have all disappeared when Simon
we
left.
should have.
I think
we should have all left so he would come back to himself.
Your thread got paused. You didn't realize it, but when I 5 minutes just went past. I'm sorry.
It felt like losing
I
it for
believe
5
that.
minutes. So I think so. I think it's pretty
Yeah,
accurate. I think I have a pretty good internal clock.
So there was a code snippet which wasn't.
Yeah,
I think did we lose
that's
a
kind
couple
of about
of
4
cues?
questions. That's kind of about
Did we
4
lose a
questions.
couple of cues? Yeah.
Oh, that's
Did,
weird.
did same
Yeah.
question get asked twice or something?
I still see it
You're
there.
right. Where did no? I see it down at
Not in order
top of
anymore?
the hour. Top of the hour.
It seems like it's not in order anymore.
Yeah, no. So it's in the.
Yeah,
So I
that's
just realized
what's
it's the order in which you star them, not the order in which they came up for the conversation, which is interesting.
Oh, that's useless. Oh, that's
Yeah.
horrible. No.
Well, no, that kind of makes sense because if you have a question that you unstar and start again, you want that. Whatever, doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
Let's jump on to the code. Jamil. Jamil posted a code snippet request. So let's have a
Okay.
quick look
So
at that.
that's
We'll probably look at this more during the
Live coding.
during the live coding section. But let's
Okay.
see what it's about. Hang on, there is the share button gone. Right when you want it, it's not there.
oh share the share button, not the show button.
sorry.
All right. I
Sorry.
saw a show button. All right.
All right, so what do we got here? Bottom sheet with text field. Oh, we spoke about this last week, didn't we? We didn't get to it because we didn't have a code snippet that we could use. Please use tablet simulator or landscape mode to better see the issue. When the text filter tab 1 is pressed and focused, the keyboard appears, resizes the bottom sheet correctly. However, the footer goes over the whole content of tab 1, which causes the user not to see what's being written. I came up with several workarounds. I don't feel the right way of doing this. Yeah, okay, so we can definitely take a look at this. This kind of bottom inset problem is kind of quite common in understanding of it. There's probably it's actually probably this. Actually, now look at this. You might need to encompass inside the sum bottom sheet handling of the inset. But we'll take a look at this. Yeah, we'll run this up at the end. And we'll see if we can fix the code and make it work. Yeah, I know exactly this kind of stuff about going in and out of what's doing what bottom inset, what removes the inset. It's quite a common thing you need to kind of work around. So yeah, there's also something that Android does natively when you go into landscape mode and there's not enough screen real estate. It does extract text field or something like that. It was called. I can't remember. It's weird, but basically it just means that the above the keyboard is just an entire text field. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. Have you guys ever seen that? You go into landscape, you tap on a text field, and then the entire text field, the keyboard comes up, and then above the text field is all just an input field.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it has an enter button on the right, like a button that you press and enter. There's extract IME. I can't remember what it's called now. There's a whole thing for it. Sadly, that's something that solves a lot of these problems when there's not. This is more about mobile screen real estate, but when there's not enough real estate to show it, or it'd be really nice just to say, okay, when I'm in landscape and I'd focus a text field to extract that text field. I think that's a really helpful thing to do, but Flutter doesn't have any built-in thing for that. So maybe that's a nice feature enhancement that we can kind of look into, what might be an easy way of implementing that. So it's a generic approach. All right, yeah, we'll come back to your question, Jamil, near the end, and we'll load up the code. I'll get a device, a tablet hooked up so we can try it out.
In theory, in the order that they were posted, here's the next one. Free. I remember there was some live coding done on adding user mentions in a text field by typing @ but I couldn't find it in the JIT. Oh, how did that come back?
That's last week. That's from last week.
Okay.
Why am I seeing that in this week? That's really weird.
Or did he post it again? He had to leave, didn't he? Did he have to leave? Free. Did you post that this week? No, it's from last week.
Yeah.
Whoa! It remembers things from week to week that we start.
If you look at the timestamps, you'll see that there's also a 3-parter from Steph coming up, and that was I don't see Steph on here either.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah. All right, skip that one. What's next?
Let's skip this and this. The one from Steph because she's not here anymore. Or we answered that I think last time. That's is maybe was it was.
If I
this
go
one
Michael,
today? Is
there's
this
one
today?
before this from. There's one before this from Michael. Getting started, ready for an interview. Let me just open this one up because this one I see before.
Yeah, how did that one disappear off my screen? That's really weird.
All right.
Oh, it's
getting
in a
ready for
different
a new job.
order.
Flutter senior level role. Got any favorite interview questions I can study for? Huh. I actually have a whole set of interview questions I ask, but I'm not going to tell everyone.
Right. That's the problem. Is like when you reveal the question, then people can prepare the answers for it.
I mean, when I always, I always like to find out what people's knowledge is of Dart, so the language things. So like also talking about things like what's the difference between final and const, how do you make things immutable, what is immutability, anything, like sort of general stuff like that. There's always it's always nice to talk about set state and build and like how basically trying to get out of them like their understanding how build and the Flutter's 3 trees work and stuff like that, so you can kind of see their level of understanding around Flutter and its framework. Yeah, I think I'd say that like inner workings of Flutter should be something you should be ensuring that you have a good foundation of an understanding.
My softball intro kind of question is, what's your favorite widget and why?
I like that.
For me, I like to ask, and this is probably not a great option, but for me, like I like to know what they know about various architecture formats, and specifically, like I'll try to bait them into to saying anything about clean architecture, because if they want to implement it, that's an automatic no, because it's terrible for Flutter. So like architectural patterns like MVVM, I want to know stuff like how well do they understand that? How do they, understand the repository pattern? Things of that nature, because those are things that I think in a day-to-day when you're looking at someone's code, if they get that wrong, can just be like, oh man, I have to take them through this again in the pull request of, the logic should not be here. Please put it, outside of the widget or whatever. So,
there's just, the solid principles, right? So like, separation of concerns and just like.
And to me, those things, that's more important than the framework itself is do they understand software development and the larger principles thereof, because everything else that's Flutter specific can eventually be learned. But if they don't have an understanding of how to develop good software, then
So when I'm handling interviews, it was always that. It's like understanding what their experience of software development is. Then what for when it comes to obviously a Flutter one, it's like what is your understanding of Dart and Flutter, but it's more about so I can gauge where they're at, so I can find out are they a good fit for the position necessarily, right? As I say, if you're senior, then there's a certain expectation that you know a certain level of information around those topics, right? Whereas if you're just hiring a general Flutter role, then like you can learn on the job the Flutter stuff if you've already got good experience in programming, right? And the other one is I always ask about their experience in native platforms. And have they ever used platform channels? Have they ever used sort of method channels? And have they used FFI, things like that? So I can understand, again, gauge where they're at. The interview itself is normally more about saying working out from the interviewer's perspective, working out are they a good fit for the role that you're looking for them to fill, right? Right. So that what you want them to work on, right? And that comes down to understanding that from the person, right? So.
Yeah, I hate stump the chump style interviews. Like, I feel like if you're playing stump the chump, then that's not necessarily stump the chump. Like, let me ask you this esoteric question about Flutter that you're probably not going to know off the top of your head.
So this is the interesting thing. I asked a couple of interesting questions, but it's more about it's not about that. It's more about to gauge how they're going to approach the topic, right? And how they're what they're doing. Yeah. No, it's not about do you know the exact fact. That literally means matters zilch. Right?
That is precisely where I was going. It's like I want to see how you solve problems. I want to see how you. If I ask you something you don't know, I want to see how you go about figuring it out. Like that's because
very good at Googling. I'm
Yeah. Well,
extremely-
I mean,
Yeah.
you would not believe how many people, particularly of a certain age, can't use Google anymore. Like, and I'm not talking about old people. I'm talking about like, young people just coming out of high school that their ability to research is just practically non-existent.
Heaven
Well, the
forbid they go
problem
to a
is
library.
classic Google.
Right.
Classic Google. You had to figure out. You had to think of what the page was that you want to show up first in your search. Then you have to think about the words that would be on that page. And you have to, so basically you have to reverse engineer a prompt in order to get real good results out of Google. But once I get good at that, it was like great. So I know it'll have this and this and that keyword and maybe my name if I've talked about it before, that kind of thing. So it'll come up like that.
All right, so go on.
We've
Go on,
beat that to death.
move on.
I was going to say also on that, it's just coming on what's important or not. It's much more important that you know something can be done than you know how to do it, because then you know to go look for it. So
Yep.
I
that
agree
was
with
all.
So, we can do the second question from Michael. Is right after that. I've been looking through the docs for completers, but the use cases just aren't clicking. Can you give another angle on when to use completers over features and streams? It's not really over. Completers is the other back half of a feature. So they're related.
It's something, a completer is a feature you want to complete later.
Yeah.
So you can have a series of features or streams or something have some action, and then you can return a result, i.e. complete that feature at a later date. So when you initiate a completer, you get a feature immediately that you can wait on, or you can send back for something else to wait on from your function. But then you can actually complete the result of that completer at a later date without pausing the execution of your code, of your normal flow of code, right? It's very subtly different.
Except for future.value, which is already completed, pretty much everything that creates a future, like you call an API and it comes back with a future, must have a completer somewhere in the back end of that it's going to activate to finally complete your future that you're now holding. What do you mean? You don't think that's true, Simon? It has to be.
Well, you can have an implicit future function which doesn't have a completer, right? It's just a future that returns a value, right? So an async function doesn't actually have a completer, an instance of a completer.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I mean, like in essence, it's that same thought that at some point a value has to be returned, right?
Yeah, I actually have an example
around a future.
On my Dart and Flutter channel, which I'll blazingly post in a minute there. There is one of my videos is on using a completer to know in your startup that some other action has already happened that it was from the result of a call. It's pretty fun. I'll see if I can find the specific video, but in the meanwhile, here's my Dart and Flutter channel you can subscribe to.
We actually do something similar to that, Randall. We have like a whole startup sequence of stuff that has to happen before we're allowing the user to do anything. And so, yeah.
We did what was it? He's on this channel. We did when I was working on one of these apps recently. We did an interesting thing with starting a future for a timer, right, and then waiting on it later, because the future had already started running. You know if that time's elapsed or not. Anyway, it's another interesting thing like that. Anyway, yeah, I think that's enough of that one, right?
All right. Moving on, Hashan Kanangara. That sounds.
You can just say the first names. You know that you don't have to.
Hashan. Well, you wasn't you that told me you wanted to hear the whole names every time?
Well, no, the first name. Yeah, just the name, right? So that.
Hashan. All right. Love to hear more about the Flutter thread merge. Well, there's been a couple of videos on that recently in the Flutter channel, right?
I just haven't been following this, to be honest. I mean, I understand the principles and why it's important.
Yep.
I mean, maybe you can ask maybe some more specific questions. I mean, the point, I'll give you some just general feedback from my understanding of it. So previously, the main Dart thread was not the same main UI thread that the operating systems create to run your code. So Dart runs its own event loop that's outside of the main event loop that the operating system works on. This isn't a problem. You know, it worked for ages, but it does mean that now every bit of communication between Dart and the operating system has to be asynchronous. You can't do synchronous communication. That is what was required, right? So this is why the merge takes place. Now, the events that Dart processes on its event loop are being processed on the same thread as the main UI thread, of that's given to you by iOS, Android, Windows, whatever. This way, when I give an example, when you drag a window on Windows around or Mac or whatever, you'll get events to tell you, oh, the window's now here, it's moved, whatever. They're going to come in sequence with the Dart processing those events, right? This way you get a very synchronous throughput and there's not like a lag that goes on between the two things. The difference, the problematic part of this is about time. So, okay, this is a way of program. Most people don't think about programming this way, and I think it's really important to think about it, right? We're gonna go really simple, like a really simple example here. Your processor runs at 100 hertz, not 2 billion hertz, not 2 gigahertz, 100 hertz, right? This is a simple example. That means it can do 100 instructions a second or 100 things, right? Basically means that, okay, you tell it to do one thing and another thing and another thing. If at some point you've given it too much stuff and it can't handle it, right? And it will then start lagging, right? The actions you're asking to do, it cannot keep up with. Now, multi-threading is the idea of you have multiple cores and you can have a thread running on each core. Now, the threads can run on one core. But my point is multiple cores. Now you can have a thread on each core. Now they can run code simultaneously. Now, if you had 100 hertz of each core, now with 2 cores, now you can do 200 times, 200 operations a second rather than 100. 3 cores, 300 a second rather than 100. You can start to see how this can actually make sense. Now, the problem here is by merging the 2 threads, coming back to this, now instead of having 2 threads, which could be scheduled on 2 different cores, right? We now have the 2 threads running as one thread on one core, which means that you can now effectively only, let's say 50% of the time of that main thread is taken up previously on the core. Now you've only got 50% left for your Flutter app, right? So what previously may have been your Flutter app working and performing well may stop working well when you now work it to one thread. That's the concern for a lot of people, right? Run your app and find out. Run your app and see. And that doesn't stop your app from working. It just tells you that actually you've done some things wrong in your app because you should have actually been thinking about, oh, I'm going to do this massive JSON decoding or image stuff, and I should be setting up a separate isolate for that. And I wasn't doing that, right? And that's the way you resolve these issues, right? You spin up an isolate and send some stuff off to be processed on another thread, basically.
So the solution is if we see performance hits, then what we need to be looking at is where is that performance hit coming because it's now on the main thread. And if that's the case, then we need to spin that out into an isolate. Got it.
Yeah.
It's Simon.
From Matt, yeah.
Matt says.
Well, it's immediate response for texting, but yeah. I mean, this is the same thing that we had. Like me and Matt did some. Says super declarative for anyone knows. Not Matthew on the screen here. Matt Carroll, who owns Super Declarative, who is Super Declarative, should I say? We've done quite a few things, and we've run into these same things when we were trying to do some platform channels, native code, blah blah blah. That whole threading model becomes a problem. Right.
Yeah, I remember when this. I was going to say, I remember when the thread merge first came out. I remember Eric was pretty skeptical of it. Do we know? Did he come around or?
And well, but the thing is, it still hasn't. I don't think has it been done yet? Has it been released in stable? I'm not even sure. I don't know.
I honestly have to go take a look. Kind of like opting, you could opt out or something like that now with it or something. I don't know.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'd be honest with you, like try it, see if you can opt out. Brilliant. Then if you've got a problem, you opt out for time being until you fix it. Gives you enough time maybe till they force it for you to update your code. I mean, it's quite reasonable. At the end of the day, you want a nice framework, you want something that's performing, you want your app to be performing. They make these changes to make that happen, and then you have to move with it. Otherwise, you get left behind.
Yep.
All right.
So actually, that got duplicated. He was bad
because he added a queue. We don't need to punish him for adding the queue and trying to follow instructions. We can still go with his.
No, there's the one from 25 after that.
I understand, but it's because he added the Q.
Really?
We'd already kind of selected him at that point.
I'm so
Then I'll
confused
push
right
it
now. Okay.
I'll push it up. It doesn't matter. It's super declarative again. Asking a question, trying to adapt the IO card
Wait.
flip well shader from 2023.
Yeah.
You know, if the
By the way.
fragment still
Why do you
can't.
come on the show, Matt?
Yeah, it makes it easier. You can just ask horizontally or diagonally.
Let me find you, and I'll send you a link.
Summon him. Summon him. Yes.
Summon him like.
Yes. Right. Definitely.
Super declarative. Must be summoned.
Yes. Yeah, room for
I just I got my card, so.
Matt, I can hop off if you want, and then you can bring
No,
Caroline.
No, we can. Fine, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 isn't.
I've sent him a message. Anyway, right, where were we? What were we talking about?
Okay. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to do
Card
this?
split foil shader from. That's a good point. If fragments still can't sample check, do you know what? I don't know, and I've been meaning to explore this. So maybe it's something we could try in the coding. So this is a thing that took place. So okay, so let me give an example of this because it's the same problem I had when I did this. So I want to do a book flipping animation, right? So like the page, your entire UI kind of curls up like a book to reveal what's underneath. It was meant for like a book kind of magazine kind of reading experience, but the screens were made out of widgets, not an image, right? So that means how do you get that effect? Now, the way you do this in modern kind of screens is modern architecture is that you use a vertex shader and a fragment shader. Vertex shader lets you change the points on the screen, the vertices for the geometry, and the fragments are essentially fragments of that geometry, portions of that geometry. In effect, they are pixels. For each pixel on your screen that gets displayed, it works out what portion of that geometry it needs to be rendering, and then it calls that fragment shader to calculate what the color should be. So, coming back from that, basically, this means that if you want to sample in Flutter, if you want to sample like a bunch of widgets, you need to have an image of those widgets so you can sample it. So the book turning stuff that I did back in the day was literally it used a render boundary to capture the image of the widgets and then paint that on the screen in the curl effect whilst it's doing it, which gets us there. But the problem is it ends up being one of those things where is not very performant. You want it to happen in every frame. If you have to capture images, you have to process images, you have to deal a bunch of sort of fixed data. It's not great. So inside Flutter they added shaders, but shaders couldn't sample the existing user interface, which is what the point Super Declarative is trying to make here, which was can we sample widgets on the screen to actually then re-render them in a different way? But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. We can maybe try it out. I know there was a widget for that, so let me make a note, and then we'll come back to that, I guess.
We have someone backstage that we haven't had.
Indeed. Let's see. Hello.
How's it going?
Hey. Not too bad. Is it me or is that a dark room?
No, let me get these lights up. Yeah.
He's got a remote control.
I was expecting Matt, and then we get Rody. Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Oh. We might have to. I might have to go off.
No, we can all come on screen. It's all fine.
Sure.
Good.
That's all right. Just get tinier and tinier.
We'll go full Brady Bunch. It's all good.
Yes. No, Hollywood Square. Hollywood
Square.
Matt, you,
that way we're not related, which is probably good.
Is my audio coming through?
Yeah, your audio's coming through fine.
All right.
You're a bit dark as well. Maybe it's just me.
I don't have my studio lights on today. I wasn't planning on joining you guys, so I'm unprepared.
That's fine. It's fine. It's all fun.
Yeah. So what was the conclusion on? I missed the end of that. So I tried running the. So you mentioned Vertex. I think this is just a fragment shader, but I took the code from 2023. I just copied it over. And I noticed in the code, by the way, from 2023, it said, oh, if it's mobile, turn off the shader. So I assume it was a known limitation then, but it's 2 years later. Do we still not have the ability to run a fragment shader on a child widget at this point?
So actually, I as far as I know, like fragment shaders are working fine in mobile. I've seen them working in mobile. But you mean to capture child widgets and to use them as part of the...
Yeah, so the effect is you have your playing card, which Danielle showed a pack, I guess, of those. But you have your playing card, and then you want to put this kind of rainbow foil effect on the card. And that it works on desktop and it works on Chrome. And then I ran the same code on iOS Simulator and an iPhone, and all I have is the rainbow. The card just is gone. The child widget is gone.
Interesting. Well, I've not. I mean, if you've actually run it and you've experienced that firsthand, I'd say that there is a problem right now.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess there at time. Well, there's been like previously there were packages you used for shaders, right? And then Flutter upgraded some APIs, and you moved away from some of those early shader packages. And then there were rules about. So I just don't know what the current state is of you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z for these fragment shaders.
I'm trying to remember. We had there's a couple of widgets, wasn't there? We had image.
Here, let me look
filter.
up what I got.
I had color filter, image filter.
So I guess this one is there's a shader builder, and inside of that there's an animated sampler. Those are the two pieces that seem to be coming together here for this effect.
Oh, okay.
And one or both of those widgets comes from the Flutter shaders package, which again I know previously that was important, and I don't know if that's been deprecated or made obsolete or something.
So the Flutter shaders package, if I remember rightly, was just done as like a middle ground. It was just done as a way of saying, okay, here's kind of some workarounds. Let's check it out. Rody, do you want to introduce yourself before we?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Rody, longtime Flutter user, developer, and community fan. I at Google working on AI workflows, supporting Flutter, Gemini, Firebase, and a bunch of other projects.
He works for the big G, everyone. Yeah. He's got to mind his words.
Yes.
We don't have these problems.
The rest of us don't. So let's just make that clear.
Yeah, the rest of us do not. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And Matt's introduced himself too, right?
Yeah, Matt, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am super declarative.
You hear that?
Former Googler, former member of the Flutter team, for the last 5 years, been doing contract development, consulting, education. And today I'm just here because I'm messing with the personal project. I'm looking to build a little card deck builder for a trading card game. But step 0 was, can I just apply this effect? And I'm already blocked. So a very disappointing start to this side project.
So
I love that you stacked the Matthews, Simon. Like it's like Matt squared over here.
It was the order that people came in. That was it.
That's actually not true.
Is it not?
It's not. I got here before Matthew did.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough.
Just saying.
Let's see. What was that?
Question?
Shaders. That was it. We're talking about that question about shaders. I thought I'd take a quick look. Yeah, let's make this bigger. Yeah. So look, animated sampler, 2 years old. So it hasn't changed in 2 years. But this, I think, is one of those hacks which just basically captures an image. So let's have a quick look. Shader sampler builder, single child render object widget, creates a render object, fires over the pixels, a bunch of stuff, and then now this is a render proxy box, which is a composited layer. So yeah, this is just basically playing sort of a man in the middle game here, and just kind of like, yeah, is a repaint boundary always needs compositing, which is set to enabled. So when the widget's enabled, it's a repaint boundary needs compositing. So yeah, this is basically giving it a stopgap so that the thing underneath can actually capture it and use it, I would guess. the actual builder. So they've actually created a custom layer. That's interesting. So
Is Impeller enabled on desktop currently?
I don't believe so, because it's only Android and iOS, right?
So is this likely just a failure of Impeller? Impeller just doesn't do this, and Skia on desktop does, and Skia in the browser does.
You experienced this on iOS and Android?
I haven't tried Android yet, but I tried the iOS simulator and a physical iPhone.
You could disable Impeller on Android and then to compare the two, right, and see if it actually, with it on or off, and if it works. You can't do that on iOS, right, but you can do that on Android still. But yeah, no, this seems to be capturing a layer using a scene builder to capture that layer and push it, and then it then extracts an image. And this is basically a workaround the fact that we still, at the time 2 years ago, I still don't know if this is the case, that you couldn't do this, right? So if I remember rightly, shaders couldn't access like the widget tree, right? Like they couldn't access the image of the widget tree, shall we say, that's underneath them. And I'm not sure if that was addressed or not. I seem to remember rightly that there was like, what's the widget that allows you to apply like a fade to
shader mask,
shader mask, like a
which you taught me about that widget.
I can't remember all widgets all times. Everyone, yeah. So this takes a shader callback, which returns an actual shader, and then you've got a fragment shader. I'm trying to remember, like, yeah. So I think the idea, I mean, we had at the time was that you would create like a shader that, you see, there's all this about sampling. I don't see anything here. If you remember, it was like an image filter. Anyway, there's a image filtered class, right? Widget. And then this takes an image filter, and that image filter can build it off a shader. But again, though, that shader still doesn't have access to what's underneath. I might try this route if I were you, Matt, and try to see.
So there's a sampler 2D in there. Is that not the underlying image?
Yeah, that's why. Hey, look, that's it. That's it.
Okay, I'll attempt this. I'll see if this gives me a different result.
This is what we were missing before. Yeah, Impeller uses OpenGL Y direction, whereas custom. Yeah, okay. Okay, no, this is good. So yeah, it automatically gets a texture on the input that you can sample to do your stuff. So this way, you don't need to use the animate sampler.
Great.
Right, this goes when using the Impeller rendering engine.
So. Okay, so now it's going to work on mobile, and it's going to be broken on desktop and Chrome.
To detect if it's supported, is shader filter supported on image filter?
But I guess it may be, I don't know. So the previous example, that when that shader is applied, the rainbow shader from 2023, is that actually sampling the card behind it, or is it just applying like a medium opacity rainbow on top of it?
I don't know about that example. We can have a look at it if you can send me a link.
It's open source. Let me grab the link and I'll send you the.
But I mean, like, right, the way this works here is it's actually capturing an image from everything underneath it in the tree, and then it passes that as a sampler to the shader, from what I gather here. So this is the work.
I just linked you to the widget.
This would be backwards. This theory would be backwards compatible, where with the Skia stuff when they brought in fragment shaders, and so this would be the workaround around the fact that if this isn't supported. All right, where did you send it to me? That's the question. I'll send it
X, formerly Twitter.
Whatever. Yeah.
Twixter.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a look.
Now that's not the shader, that's the widget. But if you go in the directory up there to IO flip UI, you can go to the shaders directory and look at the fragment shader.
Okay. Yeah, so this
There
takes
is an
a
input
source.
texture.
This takes a source at the application canvas. Yeah. Yeah, so it's mixing some colors based on input vectors, right? So you've got the offset. So you've got source UV, and then uses the offset to apply different hue and lightness, and then depending on that hue, we get different rainbow prime.
Yeah, so I guess the answer is to split the two approach. So use this approach on desktop and browser, and then use the approach we were just looking at from the API docs on Android and iOS.
I mean, in theory, this should work on both. I mean, like it's sampling a 2D sampler, so in theory, this should work on both. I wonder if it's this extension that's not supported.
You'd also need to basically show this anytime that the impeller shader is supported, because you'd have to support iOS devices where impeller's false, I guess, too.
Oh, you're saying in terms of choosing one of these over the other to also make sure impeller is turned on? Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah. So check to see if it's supported, which would also indicate that it's got impeller, right? Because it would say not supported. Use image filter shader if it's supported with this shader, because it uses the same sampler, just to make sure it's the right offset. And then same goes for the backup is to go to animate sampler and use that, which same thing would have the same sampler supplied from the image. So theory is it should work. You might just need to, it's probably the wrapping code of the widget that needs to change. How has this decided to do it? Let's have a quick look. This is using animate sampler.
So this, like, I literally copied over this widget code right here. Like, I'm using this widget with this fragment shader. And
I see no reason why this shouldn't work as it is right now. But I would try maybe going and trying the same thing, but instead of doing this, instead of using an animate sampler, use the image filter. See if it works. And if it works, now you got your switch out, right? So when you're on impeller, it uses this one, and when it's on the other one, use the other. Yep. Anyway, I think that's where it goes. So yeah, image filter dot shader. Cool. Anything from anyone else on this?
You heard it here first. The Magic the Gathering killer is being written by Matt Carroll.
So
I'm going with a much more obscure game than that.
I was thinking like Philatro.
I actually I showed these off when we got back from Flutter Europe, but the organizers we organized a bunch of cards to be made, and these were given out at random to people during the conference. And the idea people could swap them at the conference to get a whole full set of 20 deck cards. And in here we've got things like the Crash, right? What else we got here? The Firebase Flame.
Nice.
Ooh. What else we got here? Let's see. The Pull Request. The CTO. There you go. Like, should I bring this up? Should we see if we can just? I'll go for a couple of these just while we're here. Look, there's the CTO. So like,
yep.
The Burnout.
Oh, I'm familiar with that one.
The AI assistant.
Nice.
Is all like the intern. Hey, look, the intern gets to grow. He's super happy. The App Store Oracle. Senior engineer, like that.
Grizzle. There I am. There I am.
The test suite. Everything ticks off perfect. The debugger, I like that one. The versioning, someone who does versioning, yeah. The hackathon hermit. What else we got here? The UX magician. The framework whisperer. The coffee loop.
Nice.
Finally, and we've got a couple more. The junior dev. Imposter syndrome.
I love the imposter syndrome at the top. That's fantastic.
Push to prod. You get your battle. You get your
Friday bonus. Yeah.
Yes.
The merge conflict.
Nice.
And the scope creep. all things I think all of us have had to deal with at some point.
Yep.
More questions?
there you go.
I guess. Shall we go more questions there, Simon? This
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah,
simple. Why did you choose Wednesday night for live streaming, and why not Saturday night?
For
Well,
me,
because
it's-
Because
we
we all have a
are
weekend that we want.
Yeah,
because we are the coolest people on earth, and we are all too busy being invited to hot celebrity parties on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
really. When have you been invited to one? Ouch.
Why wasn't I
Any
invited?
invitation. You're always invited to my Friday karaoke sessions, but you're probably not going to make it to Portland for that. So,
Yeah. I live on the wrong coast.
yeah,
Um,
it's okay.
And
We live
on
I-
Wednesday morning over here.
Tuesday night, right?
we should.
Yeah,
I just realized we should also actually introduce Rody as the creator of the Signals classes,
Signals
the
package,
Signals
yes.
package that we've been looking at.
yes.
So, yeah. So well done to that, and I'm
Thanks.
sure we'll
I
have a
few
good chat
Signals
about
questions.
that
I
in a
have a
bit
few
as well.
Signals.
So put your
Ready.
questions about Signals in the chat, and I'm sure Rody will help
Yes.
answer them.
So,
Yeah.
fun quick story on that too.
on.
If you look at the Signals package, do you see how old the first version is?
Yes,
I didn't check.
How it's like 10 years old.
right,
uh,
right.
and I found the package after I had made Signals, and I'm like, oh, someone like grabbed the name because it was like unlisted, not showing, and I'm like, okay, let me go. And then I was like, whatever, I'll just choose. I uploaded pre-act Signals instead, and I was like, no, I want to like see if I can reach out and find it. Found out it was actually like 2 people above me that I reported to, so he just like transferred the name to me. He had made it like 10 years ago and only ever uploaded 1 commit. So
Wow,
yeah.
wow, cool. All right.
Well, you're about
so-
to tell me it was your one that you did. It was on like an old email account or something.
No,
you
that would be
completely
really
forgot
funny.
about.
And so
Um,
it's Wednesday because it's Wednesday. It's a day that we all had available.
Because it's Humpday. It's the middle of the week.
Of course.
Right. Exactly. All right. Enough on that one. Next one. Dev asks. Oh, Dev, that's really generic, unless his name is like Devin or something. I really need to create a video editor like CapCut. How do you recommend I create the timeline where I have multiple layers, frame by frame, and different objects in the video? I don't think you're going to get enough performance out of widgets for a video.
Well, you
editor,
could
like-
you could do it in C and a lot of FFmpeg stuff, but you're basically going to be using Flutter just for the UI layer.
Yeah.
As I say, yeah, you're not going to do the actual video editing in Flutter itself. You do again native for that. But yeah, but what they're asking for is about the timeline, right? How you might create a timeline,
That'd be
design your timeline widget, and build your widget.
You could do anything with custom paint.
Well, I was going to say
I
like
think
the
you-
custom multi-child delegate might be a good option here too, if it's reasonable timeline. I mean, if you're talking
think-
about hours and thousands of objects, it might not work great. But
Yeah, it's one of it's a tough one because to know exactly what you're trying to build, right? But you can normally a timeline is like a horizontally scrolling piece of content, and then you've got parts of that timeline which are reserved, and then they're going to be like decorated in some sort of way to indicate. Think of it like a calendar, right? That's a horizontal calendar, if you will. So yeah, and with that, like that's more about like again, really working out when you need to display what widget on the screen. But yeah, you can do that. It's a custom widget, you know. Maybe start looking at if you haven't done custom render objects, maybe just start looking at a custom multi-child widget, which gives you a delegate, and start there.
that's my favorite.
Or
one to start
watch
with.
previous shows. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
My hour's up, so I think I'm
Oh,
gonna say
thank
bye,
you,
everybody.
Daniel, for joining us, and yeah, we'll see you
I
sometime.
will miss next
Bye,
week, by the way,
Daniel.
everybody. Sorry.
Say again.
I'm gonna miss next week, everybody. Sorry.
All
I'm
right.
actually
Well, we'll
gonna
see
be
you the
out.
week after next, then hopefully.
Exactly. So
All right.
Yep.
All right. Nice to see you. Bye.
All right. So we're done. Oh, yeah, we're done with this one, right? So Free wants us to do live coding on the user suggestions via ad in the
We
text
did it
field.
last week. Last week we
Oh.
did the live coding. We made it work, and we posted the snippets. So go watch last week's show.
Yeah, there you go. And Alex asks, is there now a recommended way of implementing the new iOS 26 glass navbar and back button in Flutter?
FFI.
Many ways.
Yeah.
Bye.
I think there's 26 different glass packages now, like on top.
Something like that. Right. It could be very thick glass if you wanted. Yes.
But also,
Okay.
like, I mean, ultimately, if you did want a native experience, like, you can totally build a native navigation app shell and put all of the Flutter bits inside. You know, like for certain types of applications, that might be 90% of what you're actually needing anyway. Because if you're just wanting to take over all the views in the app, but you really don't care about the menus and the navigation, then that's also a reasonable approach.
Yeah, in fact, Dominic
Yeah, the native UI package thing. Yeah,
did his new package, and one of his examples of that was exactly doing that. The glass navigation at the bottom, and I'm wondering if do you remember what his package was?
yeah, I thought it was native UI or something. Yeah, it should be native UI or Cupertino. Let's see.
If you can get a link, and we'll post it in the chat for the questioner, so to like have a look at.
Yeah.
There's too many packages. Yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting you say that, Alex, because like we said at the very beginning when in fact quite early on, I think all of us were some way involved in Flutter when the package manager was a quite a bit different, to be fair. Like there's lots happened since then to help organize it. And I think like we ultimately, the community, I think, has come to a consensus that we don't want to turn to NPM. I think we don't want like a package for every little thing and for a package to depend on every other package, and it just becomes like hell.
I mean, however, my personal approach is like trying to find a way to deprecate my packages so they become closer to things I can do with like built-in platform features, like with FFI, or like more of these like kind of like, I want to get to a place personally like Go or something like that, where you have a really nice standard library and then implementers of the standard. You know, I think that's going to be like a best on both sides. But
the one thing that I do really do like about Golang is its standard library.
I love Go. Yeah,
it's just amazing for that.
It's crazy how quickly for Go I went from not writing Go to learning it in a weekend to like writing a lot of new Go code. Like, yeah.
It's so funny because I had that experience. Like I was applying for a job and they were like, you know, Go was optional on the resume. So I spent a weekend like learning Go. And then when I went in, it was, and I love Go. It is, I think my favorite thing is like how performant it is. Like, holy smokes.
Yeah. Like with very minimal effort.
Yeah.
That's a cool gopher.
Something else I've been investing some time in recently has been this one.
Oh, nice.
Rust.
Yeah. Rust is cool. Yeah, I tend to gravitate towards Go more for application building and Rust more for library building. But
yeah. There's just there's a certain amount of effort that the developer has to put into developing, right? And like, you don't dive into like C and C++ and assembler to write like an application, because they're completely like worlds apart in terms of you don't want to. You can do it. Don't get me wrong. You can build a whole operating system in assembler if you really want. Like, but why? Why put yourself through that, right? So there's this kind of middle ground, which is like, do you use the right tool for the right job? And that's about picking that sort of right language to build your product with. And if you've got to deal with traits and everything else that you bring in Rust, it's like great, but it has a place. You don't go try to build like high level applications with that,
Yeah. I mean, and also Zig has been popping up on my radar too, because I've been writing a lot of C code for FFI, and you can use Zig to easily cross compile. Not only that, you can even use Zig to cross compile CGO, so you can like have like all the benefits of C inside of Go and still do it.
So Go. Do you mean so you're not using Carbon, Google's Carbon language?
No, this is just that's more for like competing with C++. That's so like yeah. It's super cool though. Like it's a huge problem to solve.
It's finding the time as well, though, for those of us that are not doing it as their day job, right? Like you've I think again that comes back to like just software development in general. Like you need to spend a certain amount of your time just learning new things, like like keeping on top of frameworks and packages and languages and whatever, right?
Yeah, I think that's also why I've gravitated towards SQLite for a lot of stuff too. I'm like, there are always going to be new data persistence packages, but I can learn this thing and then like apply my things that I know to it. And like, it's just going to be consistent and less things to keep in your head for sure.
Got one more question from you.
You have to go.
I gotta get back to some real work. I was good to see you guys, and if I make any progress on this deck builder, maybe I'll bring it back and show it off.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. You're welcome on the show anytime, Matt. All right.
Awesome. All right. Good to see you guys.
Hey, Matt.
Catch you next time.
Yes. All right. Final question for this week, I think. Other than the live coding, we have Philippe says, when using Firebase with Flutter, particularly with the Flutter Fire CLI, what is the best practice for managing multiple app flavors like dev, staging, and production?
You're going to manually need to copy your Firebase options generated file and put that into different flavors that you're going to trigger from your main.
Doesn't if I remember rightly, does the Firebase CLI tool not deal with that for you now? Like you can like import multiple projects and it creates like the different Firebase
I think that would be
file and merges the options together or something. I'm trying to remember.
That's for multiple Firebase projects, but I think this would be for flavors of like you may have the same Firebase project with different configs.
Well, I was just, he said dev, staging, production. So when it talked about flavors, I was thinking more about environments.
Yeah, fair. I guess
I'm glad to hear that directly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm glad to hear that directly from you because we literally ran into this problem and like that's exactly what we did is we just broke it apart. Yeah, okay.
I'll be honest with you, I just deal with this thing manually most of the time. Like waiting on automated tools is fine, but when it comes to like flavors and things like that, you end up with quite a specific configuration for your requirements, and it ends up always being something custom. There you go. Firebase CLI now supports flavors. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I guess I was also thinking of the case where you create a white label application where you are running flavors for the different configs and like kind of building like a 12-factor app. But that's more what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Okay, what's next?
That's it.
Have we got anything in the chat?
Just like pudding.
Well, someone asked this question, which we can chuck in there whilst I get ready.
Angel script. Are you meaning native script?
I have no idea what it is.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I was like, what's Angel script? I became that meme. I don't know what Angel script is. And at this point, I'm too afraid to ask.
That's cool. Looks like it's a scripting language, but I'm going to check that out. It looks like it's low level. Yeah.
Oh.
That's cool. Looks a little bit like TCL almost.
Oh, nice. God. Toy command language.
Yeah.
That's what I used to call it back when I was doing heavy Perl stuff. It was like,
nice.
Oh, those TCL people, they don't know anything yet.
Nice. Yeah. I'm also happy to answer questions about signals too.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about signals for briefly. Well, because we missed you. We tried to get on the shows previously when we were talking about signals.
Yeah.
So Don, maybe do you want to explain a bit about signals, what it is, where it came from, for those that don't know?
Yeah, totally. So back maybe 2 years ago now. Wow. I live in multiple worlds. One of the worlds is web, and I started noticing a trend where all of the major frameworks started aligning on state management, and the fact that different JavaScript frameworks agreed about anything was a huge deal. And so I was like, there's something here, right? Because signals seemed like this thing off to the side where I was like, they're just trying to create another way to do it. But then I started to realize that it's like, it's taking a lot of the things that we've had in the past, like observables and RxJS, but like fixing all the problems to where you could actually have a lazy system that didn't do more work than necessary, but also a pull system to where you only need to render the data at the time for the minimal computation at any given time. And it's still like how to all the other benefits. So there's like Ryan over on Solid had made a major update to Solid.js with solid signals, and like did a he streams about it a lot and talks about it. But I became aware of it when Preact actually adopted signals and made a implementation that didn't require any JavaScript framework. It was in a single file, so I could reason about it. And the cool thing about it is it's based on a double linked list system. So a lot of times when people come into signals, they're like, oh, gross, it has global state or whatever. You know, it's like, no, it's like, it's actually just linked together in a graph. And you can have as many subgraphs or disconnected graphs as possible. But the cool thing about signals is you bring your reactivity runtime to whatever environment you're in. So that's why it can run in Jasper and on the CLI or inside of the browser or inside of Flutter, because you have that reactivity runtime. It's some people think of it like value notifier, but value notifier is rendered through, you know, Flutter and all the widgets that accompany it, whereas signals is like primitives to the language. And like I've been working to try to see if we can bring it into Dart itself or parts of it, because like JavaScript has a proposal out for making signals as part of the language. Interesting though, not effect, which is totally intended. So signal and computed are two primitives that allow you to, one, declare a value and one, derive a value. And effect is something that's runtime specific. So you can write a signal 1,000 times a second. And as long as you're not reading a signal, no work is computed. So if you think about your application, like you're updating state, you're doing a lot of things, but like how much are you actually showing at any given time, like on the screen, right? You're like maybe showing a very, very subset of that. And then as you navigate away, like you're doing all this work behind the scenes about like user authentication state and checking background statuses and whatever. But like, you don't want to like eagerly be pushing out these updates because you're taking away from your UI thread. And so by adopting signals or looking at it, I literally went line by line and did a actual full 100% feature complete port from the Preact version. And I keep it in sync too. But that allowed me to like, you know, take advantage. And I even copied their tests too, like to have the exact same like massive ability to test and to check, but I could do anything that they could do in JavaScript. And so like it took me like not that much time to create a binder for Flutter, and there's still like some more work to do. Like I personally use it with the hooks package a lot because I think I like that it co-locates really nicely. But you really can do it however you want. I've really enjoyed, like, it's changed the way I've written Dart, first of all, because like I can think about writing my reactivity as a set of contracts that like I have values that change over time, and I have things that can be read based on when that data changes. And then I have effects that trigger anytime values change. And like just with those three primitives, you can build all sorts of like really cool applications. So yeah, it's actually made my code way more Dart specific and less boilerplate for like a framework, you know, and I think that's been something I've really enjoyed.
There was a question that came in earlier before you got here about what would you use a completer for? And now I think of how easy it is to just set up a signal and pass the signal back from your function. And now you've got a handle on the push side, and they can take the handle on the pull side.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing about that too is you can even pass it read only if you don't want them to be able to mutate it. You can pass it as signal so they can mutate it. But this value will change over time, not when the value changes, right? That's an effect. And an effect is saying, I want to run this function every time this value changes its actual value, not just got pushed to a stream. And then, but you have this like kind of like ports that you get to share around. And because it's a doubly linked graph, it doesn't depend on build context. It has direct references. It's very performant. Something that I'm going to do that's a little controversial, but I'm going to be removing auto dispose from the next major version and move it to a mix-in. So it's not a part of the thing because one, there's a big performance penalty for always checking to see if it's disposed and like doing like unnecessary work every time you write a value and whatever. And it's actually because the original implementation, which I have, already checks to see if it's garbage collected or if it's in use or if it's been written to, and will remove it from the graph even before the garbage collector does. So like it's already way more performant because it's running outside of the Dart lifecycle loop. So like Dart is managing the signal graph, but like you don't have to worry, or sorry, outside the Flutter widget lifecycle. So like even though widget's disposed, it may have already marked it as stale because it was no longer being written to and it was no longer being read. So no work needs to be done and it just would get removed from the graph in some cycle in the future. So yeah, basically I'm trying to simplify that part a bit. I added it because people are coming from value notifier, but value notifier is an eager system. And it's really kind of more than that. You know, it can, it's really the way it's pushing and pulling values is way more performant.
Well, it feels, I've done a conversion. I've been a huge Riverpod advocate for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Riverpod 3 scares me a little bit. It looks like a lot of changes, and I'm not quite ready to do a 30-degree pivot on that yet. But but I've converted a few of my existing Riverpod packages over to Signals, and the clutter disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes simpler. And it's easier for me to describe Signals to people because it's like, it's kind of like a value notifier. I mean, you've got the ability to,
if you squint,
push the pole, right? At two ends, right?
Yep.
And, but it's better than value notifier because you can aggregate it with effect and compute. Whereas a value notifier, to do that, it's like tons of work. One of the things I've been experimenting with is using type extension type as the value.
Yes.
So that I can completely control the protocol of what dot value has at the other end. And that means that I don't have to implement int anymore on the internal thing. Yeah.
Also,
and
I wish
that seems
Dart
to be
supported that. If Dart supported implements int on the extension type, my life would be complete because it supports it for list, map, and set, but not int, number, and string or bool. But if it did that, you could literally pass a signal to any value, including a widget parameter, and you wouldn't even have to do dot value. It would just read the value. But unfortunately, that is not the case. But yeah, no, it's really cool. And then also, I was a Riverpod user too. Like
it's obvious.
Yeah,
was in the past tense. He's converting now.
Well, I wanted to write.
I see async signal being like a pure mimic of async value.
Yeah,
I mean, it's I tell people about that.
And I also really love what Remy's doing with it, right? But I think it's an asynchronous graph from its primitives, which is totally necessary in cases. But I wanted a synchronous graph, right? I wanted to be able to do stuff on the UI thread, like in line, because I wanted, like, one of the Signals contracts is you should be able to call dot value at any time and receive something. You never have to wait for anything. That's why, like, async signals, like, have a sealed class essentially. But like the whole premise is like, I wanted to write more applications. I put more of my business logic in Dart and less in the framework and like less inside of kind of hidden abstractions. And I didn't like my projects personally had like, 100 plus like providers in the top level, and then like trying to pull them out. And then like, it made it really difficult to reason about my code, like at a really high level, and then like really start to apply that. But it was still like such a big unlock from what I had before too. So,
and the other thing I like is that it sits really nearby everything else that's in Dart and Flutter. It is a value listenable. It is something I could drop in as an animation controller or a scroll controller directly. I can drop it into the Go Router listenable slot, and it works. Yeah. Unlike Riverpod, where you've got to make all these adaptations. I mean, Riverpod kind of lives in its own world in that sense, but including especially the provider container. that we do have
and one
to
of the-
put a provider container somewhere and locate it somehow. And that's where a lot of
and that's because it's a tree, right? And mine's a graph. And I was really very careful I wanted to make the package disappear. So like you wouldn't know that it's a Signals app, or you wouldn't even know if that widget was using Signals under the hood. And I feel like I was tired of refactoring like out all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to make something that like someone could adopt, like a single screen of a single widget without even extending the type. They could just create a signal and call .watch. I feel like I'm one of the very few state management solutions that actually removes lines from the counter app. Like,
yeah, no, seriously. I mean, like I said, everything I converted over, first off, Gemini CLI actually got it pretty correct once I told it become an expert on signals. Now let's see about converting this in place. And it would go, oh, these 5 steps, and it just did it. It's amazing. Actually, I have a question from there's on one of the, I think on the Discord, somebody asked, I've been trying to convert to signals. And he says, I've been playing with it a bit. I'm leaning towards preferring thing paren rather than thing.value. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Is that, right. It has a call interface.
Oh yeah, totally. So that's that was popular in Solid. So I implement basically all the reactive methods: toString, toJSON, .value, .call, .get, you name it. So
well, and as I was talking before, that's how close you are to the metal. I keep calling it, because you've got toStream and FromStream. You've got toFuture and FromFuture. I mean, it's like it's just sits alongside everything else without having to invent.
It's a primitive, yeah. I also did the curse thing, which I implemented value notifier and stream both with a mixin. So you can literally have a signal that you can pass to a stream object or a value listenable object, and it just works, which is crazy.
Wow. His concern was regarding signal provider. It says its constructor accepts a factory function to create a signal, but doesn't actually store it in the state. You might as well.
I 100% made that because I knew people wanted inherited widget. I'm totally happy for contributions on that.
Actually, about that, I was actually going to bring up the issue I had with that.
Yeah.
It was actually a case that I realized when I was using it that it only supported like the Flutter signals, not the underlying base signals, right?
Yeah, so they both supported it depends on what you're importing. So if you do .signals, like signals.dart.
No, what I'm trying to say is the actual provider, signals provider widget, takes a Flutter read-only widget, a Flutter read-only signal.
That is because
it doesn't take a normal base signal, right?
Yeah, that's
so the problem with that is it means that if you want to just use the Dart signals on a Dart package and have that provided to your UI, you can't do that. You have to then wrap it again in another layer.
I was actually toying with what I was going to support there. I ended up going with the Flutter one because there is an inherited widget for value listenable, and because I implemented value listenable,
I was actually started redoing it to work without that, for that to solve this very purpose. And I think that
I don't use those personally.
I think you can still use an inherited widget, but obviously like you can't take advantage of the value notifier, inherited notifier.
Yeah,
but I think it's worth it in terms of to solve that problem, because it means that any signal can then be used with
100%. Yeah.
Signals provider. If I get it sorted out, I'll fire over a PR to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I personally, the way I love signals is just declare them anywhere, pass them around as values, and then do .watch anytime you want to read them, and it works in any scope or context you're reading them in.
I was trying to use signals for injection, and Gemini CLI got mad at that, saying that's not normal. Don't do it with that. You use a singleton class again. And I go, I don't want to do that. I want to do this with signals because I know it'll work for that. But anyway, it was Gemini CLI. I still went to it old school. So
amazing. And then I'm also really inspired by a lot of what Angular's doing. So that's why you see the computed async ones that I added, and then also some of the other ones. Like that's like all direct work of Angular is actually exactly. Angular is doing some really cool stuff that's very similar to Flutter right now, because they have the same problem where a lot of their framework was written on streams, and so was ours. And they basically are creating adapters that make signals work with streams as first-class citizens. So like computed async and computed from and link signal and connect and all the things like are a way to bridge all the power of RxJS, but inside of signals. And I also have some adapters too.
I wonder if that's because we know someone called Mark Thompson who's also a Flutter community member that might be working on the Angular packages.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Guys, I have to hop off. Thanks for having me on. It was really good to meet you, Rody. And yeah, I've been messing around with signals and some side projects, and I'm really excited for what's going on there.
That's
so
awesome. Thanks for
I will talk to you guys later.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
How complete is it? What's on the roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, I also, I don't know if you've noticed, but like on the last 3 versions, I've been very, very API stable. Like I want updates to feel painless, if anything. Most of the changes have been in the Flutter land, not on the Dart side of it. So pure signals don't really see that much change. I have some things in flight, like I said, where I'm really thinking about the next major version, pulling out auto dispose and previous value and moving those to mix-ins only, because like there is such a performance penalty adding 3 extra checks every time a value is read or written. And I can see that because my preact signals benchmark versus my regular signals benchmark, the preact signals doesn't have it and it performs way faster. And so I know that's not always the end all be all, but there was actually something else that had happened recently where someone on preact, actually the upstream, they're like, oh, well, it doesn't show previous value. And like it came from, they were coming from Solid or Vue or something like that. And it's like, even the creator of signals was like, or for preact was like, if something requires a minimal amount of code or a mix-in to apply for your use case, like you want to prefer that, because like, should everybody pay the penalty or to create like the base generic signal that, you know, everybody's going to need? Not everybody's going to need the stream mix in.
It's a nice way that I like. I think it kind of reminds me of provider and select, right? The notion that, you know, you can have providers, but then you can base another layer on top, select, which just enhances what provider was already doing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so basically I'm trying to take a good look at the library, and like when I get to delete API methods and move them to helpers, like that's always a win for me. One of the things I did really like about the last version that I did is you can do $$ on any value and it creates a signal, which I feel like is just so awesome. And,
that's cheating. That's cheat code, man.
Yeah.
What would you I was looking at the future. I'm trying to remember what it was now. It's the future stuff and future signal. And I was trying to use the reload, refresh, restart, reset, whatever it was. And I was not getting the feedback that I thought I should be expecting from reading the documentation. Is there have you seen any issues around that? Or is it, I mean, like, because when I read the documentation, it says I should be experiencing one thing, but I'm not. And I'm like, I haven't really done anything special out of the box. So that was just something else I was going to.
Yeah, I'll check the docs, but the tests have been the same the whole time, and so I haven't seen.
From my understanding, it was refresh was like reset the state back to the beginning, and then you kind of go through the process of loading. Whereas there's that reload, whatever, one of them, and then the other one is I'm going to keep my data, but I'm still going to put the loading state to true and kind of go through that. I think there was a kind of I'm trying to remember now. Sorry, I can't find the code right now.
I was trying to mirror what Riverpod was doing because I knew a lot of people were coming from it.
I really liked that. When I read it, I really liked the idea of this kind of like the ability to kind of like add pull to refresh. Oh, that was it. Did you remember we tried to add pull to refresh?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something ready for you. The future for refresh completes immediately. It doesn't wait for the refresh to occur.
That could have been because the value was already. I can check it out.
Well, no. But I'm just saying. But that was actually something that the documentation explicitly said it would wait for, and it doesn't.
So okay. Yeah. That's good to know.
That was definitely one of, because we tried to add pull to refresh when we were trying out signals package, and of course the refresh function on like the default refreshable, whatever it is, it shows the spinner whilst it's loading, and then once it's finished, once you finish the refresh, it will go away. Which kind of, it was nice to be able to drop that in, right? As just call this function, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I'll definitely make sure to check the docs on that.
But yeah, I think there's that kind of note. The other one was, I think the priority, obviously I think the priority order. Sorry, I'm not trying to dig on your package, right?
No, I'm happy to receive the feedback.
The was it when you have the when to do the
dot map, yeah.
Dot map, yeah, basically. And I think the loading is taken above data, taken before data, which means if you try and do reload or refresh, whichever one it is, even if you have the data, it shows the loading state.
Yep, but that's why I usually use maybe map, because, or I usually personally use a switch expression, because this is the part where it's hard to map it imperatively, because it's a sealed class, and each of the states can have complex states. So like loading can have data because it is loading, but it has previous data. You can have loading with previous error.
No, totally get you. And it was just made that precedent order, which I was kind of thinking that, if that's that's kind of the default out of the box experience, and there's no notice of why that's happening. Like just to plug in a future and call the reload and not do what you expect.
Yeah. I think it's because most people do like just like if conditions and spreads inside the
but again, it was just it was the precedence order of the map, basically, which was also throwing up a red flag. Anyway,
that's what's odd. That's one of the things that's odd about .when in Riverpod async value is that .when has 3 additional Boolean flags that alter the priority of which ones to look at first, in a sense. And it's like, okay,
I mean,
there's nothing equivalent to that directly in signals, but like you said, just write your own tree, write your own.
I mean, the difference was we didn't have, like, when that was implemented, we didn't have silk classes, right? We didn't have switch maps, right? Like we couldn't switch on an object before like that. Right. So with pattern matching now we can do that. So
it's so great, yeah.
Fixes a lot of it, yeah. Definitely.
So maybe the documentation can just maybe make it a bit more explicit. I understand that. That's just some feedback I was thinking of. No, but yeah, I think that's. So I wasn't trying to dig on it. It's just this.
No, and then I also recently updated the hooks package to support all of the major signal types, and I mean, I have been writing a lot of signal hooks. Like it makes it so easy and nice to use. Remy made a really great package with that. There's nothing stopping me from doing the same thing without hooks, but I feel like it kind of gets to a place where it's like people expect to be able to define things in a stateless widget. But if you're not building a widget from a class, then it's like, well, you have to like change the value, or it's like order of defined and the thing, like it just gets kind of weird. And it's like, that's the part to me where I'm like, I can come up with a solution, but I'm like, I want to work with as close to the language and Flutter as possible. And I don't want people to learn signals as its own thing that it like can't be brought to other areas. But
yeah, we have a question here actually fit. Nico says, I've been using Riverpod for the last 3 years and I like it. What I don't like is the migration to V3. It's really ruffling a lot of feathers, actually. Remy did a good job doing it, but it is radical. And that's the other thing I should mention. No code gen. Thank you for a nice state management package that does not need code gen. Yay. Okay, which is the stack to replace Riverpod 1-to-1 would be signals for cache management and state management and DI? Yes. I think.
Really, but also realizing that there's going to be parts of this that like, you have to think of signals as primitives, right? It's like as if Dart added new core primitive types like stream and future and things like that. If you start to think about it that way, you can model anything you want. Like I've implemented block and signals. I've implemented like all the major things because it's a lower level like kind of primitive.
Well, so when are you releasing your signals block package?
I didn't talk about Felix with it, but yeah, it's
I kid you not, probably a lot of people would start using it. Just let you know.
And then
that was actually my point, because someone asked me the other day, should I use signals or block? And I was like, they're not really the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
Like you can still do the block pattern, but using signals. Signals is about the primitive, about the way you construct things, the way it just works out the box per se. Whereas
just new Legos. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. New Legos, basically.
Someone did a block river pod, so it's definitely possible, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's also where the part where people early on in the package were like really wanting architecture from signals, and I'm like, that's already too high level. Like, you know, it's like signals literally is just primitives. Like, I'm not prescribing any type of thing, right? You know,
I think this kind of comes. Sorry, just to kind of this comes back to the question that we always get, which is the confusion of signals and architecture, right? Sorry, signals, state management and architecture, in terms of the fact that people see them as being the same thing when they're not, right? Like I think in the Flutter world, it's like you've got the Flutter stuff, and then suddenly the state management solution fixes all my like how I communicate with them inside my app. It just works, right? Which is not the case, right? Like you still have to structure your classes, you still have to understand how you're gonna what patterns of behaviors you want in your object-oriented design, right?
Exactly.
That comes back to this. Like you can use futures as your way of connecting everything, but you still need to understand those patterns. I think that's the difference, right?
Well, you also you're just managing how data changes over time. That's like literally what your job as a developer is, right? It's like you have values coming in, you have values going out, and everything in between is the pipes. And so, like, you know,
So what you're telling us is we're now glorified plumbers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but architecture is about how you define the rooms, right? And it's like the pipes can stay in the same shape, and you can have multiple different things on top.
I remember those very early programming books of like input, black box, output. And this is what you're building, right? Like
hypo diagrams. Hypo diagrams. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but hierarchical input output process diagrams, right?
But I also think in graphs. So like, you know, like that's why signals mapped really well to how I thought about the world. I think when state managements try to be a tree, it becomes really hard because while it's easy to reason about, it forces a lot of decisions really early on of like, where's my entry point? What happens when I have an app that's invoking another tree that has its own tree, you know, and like you just get into these weird states versus like signals and like disconnected graphs is like you can use as much or as little as you want and it's fine, you know, like even if it was possible in Dart, you could even have two different versions of signals because they have their own reactivity graph, you know. So I don't know, it's interesting.
On this point, use what Randall's been doing. Just use some AI.
So
that's one way.
If you do Dart signals or dartsignals.dev/LLMs text, we actually have a full AI ready markdown file ready to use.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Can you post a link in the private chat and I'll put that in the
I actually added it to the docs recently where on getting started, it should show it now. If you go to Signal, like the Signals docs, and then get started, it should say AI editor integration has a link to copy.
All right, let me bring on.
Nice.
Thank you, Seth, for the recommendation on my GitHub to add that there. And a community member for actually adding the PR for the docs.
Somebody in one of the chats I was in actually called signals because I've been showing signals to them. They actually came back a little later and said, "Oh, so it's like this is state management construction set."
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of nice.
So, so let me just bring this up temporarily here. There we go. So you go to the documentation, and then under installing, it tells you that there you go, AI editor integration.
Yep.
Da-ding.
Cool.
And one of the cool things that can fit in the context because it's like
like
while you have like if you look on the sidebar, like there's a lot of mix-ins and whatever, but all of that extends 3.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. My gosh.
Yeah.
That's great though, because if this is enough to give it the context it needs to do your migration for you, do it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but like everything you see in signals all extends from the primitives in the core. Like they're all just syntax sugar on the top. You know, I think you wouldn't even have to use anything else besides those core functions if you didn't want.
What you just explained though is exactly what we saw when we were working on the project. When we first looked at it, was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're all looking for. It just ticked all the boxes. So you've done an awesome job. I know you've ported like signals. Signals isn't necessarily your concept, but your implementation is just yeah, it's really
well, everything that I've added on top, the Flutter side and the mixins, all that's me. So, but
Exactly,
the
right.
Preact implementation, yeah, is important.
Well,
I will say that
that's-
another thing that confused me, you obviously got the Signals package, and then there's a package called Signals Flutter, right, or Flutter
Mhm.
Signals or something. So why would I want to use one over the other? Because
So Signals is it's basically a limitation of pub. Signals is a wrapper package that exports Signals core and Signals Flutter based on the import. And so one has all of the Flutter SDK dependency, and one literally is Dart only. So all of the core stuff, the mixins, anything that doesn't depend on Flutter is in core, and then Flutter extends whatever. But like there were some specific cases where you're using Dart native or Dart web or whatever, and you had to import one.
So because I went to use because I was thinking about that, thinking, oh, the Signals package is just the Dart one, and then I would have to use the Signals Flutter one for the Flutter space, but then the debug extension only works on the Signals package. It doesn't work on the Signals Flutter package.
Yeah, because I believe that's a limitation of the.
Yeah. So what I was thinking was, why? Yes, you could have them in separate packages, but maybe it's unlisted or something on pub if the Signals Flutter one is not actually a requirement for a direct import. If you're always going to be expected to use the Signals package, which is from what I'm gathering is the idea.
Yeah, like I said, that was the limitation of pub, because if you're searching for Signals and you have Dart only selected, it wouldn't show Signals because it has the Flutter dependency.
Right.
So then it would only show Signals core and Preact Signals because those don't depend on the Flutter SDK. So it'd be filtered out. And so that was a way for me to show, because they're always pinned and aligned on the same version. But it just allowed me to include those. And I don't know why someone would import Signals Flutter, but I agree. Maybe unlisted makes sense, but yeah.
Because then it can still work to that degree, right? As a package and everything else. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because or maybe it's the case that the README just on pub just is different on that one to say.
Honestly, if you did happen to import Signals Flutter, like it still exports Signals core too. So it's like you would.
Oh yeah, no, it worked. The problem I had was suddenly like the extension, the debug.
Exactly, it's not going to have that stuff.
It was like if it expected behavior, that was just something else that popped up.
Yeah, maybe there's a use case where you don't want DevTools or any of this stuff, but I don't know. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Even if it's just a README to say you probably want to be including the Signals package, not this one directly,
Yeah. And I'm also wondering how much people find the lint and the DevTool stuff useful. I think that's that's a lot of stuff that I still can flesh out.
I was actually, what was I using? I ended up I was building an app out and with Signals, and I think the one thing that got me in the log output, because I was using the default logger as it's quite helpful, don't get me wrong. The problem I had though with it was I would put debug labels on all of my
the signals,
on my signals, so I could see which signal's doing what, and it's very helpful. The problem was the watch widgets, the watch builder and everything else, they actually create a signal themselves.
They have to,
Well, yeah, all I'm trying to get is that because they create a signal themselves, then you get that in the debug output, and it's not clear what is causing that relationship.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So I think to me it was a case of, is that is there a way to actually mark those ones as being like, these are specifically different from the rest, or they're internal, so you're not getting the same logging level or something different.
I think on one of the versions I even added debug label to the watch widget itself.
I think it's in it, but the problem now is you've got like 5 different things you might be causing that, and I don't think again in this other log it's not a direct. Those rebuilds of the UI, I don't care. Like great that they're happening, but there should be a different log level that I don't care about those, because it's about the actions that are taking place within my constructs of signals, not the ones that are made for me on behalf of the framework. Does that kind of make sense?
No, yeah. And I think the biggest thing I've been trying to run into though with DevTools is like it's a disconnected graph, and DevTools forces you into linking everything together, right? So it's like, imagine you're running your application and you have like different like subtrees or whatever, like how do you represent that? So it's like I've like had to find ways to show that, but it's like if the value is never written to, it shouldn't be showing up in DevTools because it hasn't been activated yet. But like I have to like do this.
I think it's more of a mental model, right?
Yeah.
I think not like an actual actionable model. There's some actually interesting things you could do in the graph in terms of have the graph. So there's a bunch of like networking things that I've done in the past where you actually see the live changes propagating through the tree, like the graph of nodes. That can be actually helpful. So you can actually see maybe over time when a signal changes, you can see where it propagates to on the graph, stuff like that.
Yeah, or even just exposing the internal flags of showing what state a signal's in, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's also like it's not a fire and propagate kind of model. It's a fire and mark, and then it's later a pull and resolve.
For those that don't know what package we're talking about, the signals package. Oh, I missed. So it's this one here.
And also, just for people coming into it, signals mixin is totally optional and not required. I think some people might think that that's like a necessity for using signals. It's just a helper method that I added for people to have auto disposing and those different types of features. But signals really don't require it. You can just do $$ on any value in there and just do .watch.
Yeah, you were talking about signal mixing on a widget, right? The mixing that you use on a widget.
Yep. If you're looking for an advanced topic that I did, I made a signals node-based editor on my YouTube channel. If you want to check it out too.
If you link me, I'll put the link in the channel for everyone else. So I'll pop it in the private chat here, and I'll pass it on. Right, we've been talking a lot on signals, which I'm okay with, but especially as we've been meaning to get here for a while. But I think we'll do a little bit of live coding.
Sounds good.
And then we'll sort of wrap it up. So we did have an original question that at the very beginning of the show. I'm hoping he's still here. I don't have his name. Jamil, that's it. Jamil, if you're not here, I'm hoping you're watching the recording right now, and you're going to say, yes, finally they got to my code. So that's what we're going to take a look at now. Cool. I see the link, Rody. Thanks very much. I'll pop that in the chat for anyone that wants to go check out a bit of advanced signal stuff. You can get that straight from Rody's channel. You can go follow him on this very address. Right.
Don't leave yet, though.
Rody,
Stay with this show first. Wait till
yeah, stay here. Don't go right now. Stay here. So right, actually, I was just thinking, Rody, how long have we actually known each other for?
Oh, a long time, like 7 years.
Has it been 7 years already?
I think so. Yeah.
Do you know, every year it keeps getting quicker and quicker. That's scary.
Yeah. It's wild.
Right. So we've got a couple of things we can look at. So first of all, if you want to stick around, Rody, for free,
yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, but if you need to head off. Like, I'm not gonna. Don't have to. We're not holding your hair at ransom. Put it that way. Yeah. Google, give us $1 million. You can't have it back. Right, let's see. Let's get ourselves set up here a little bit better. There we go. So earlier on in the show, Jamil posted about. Oh, he's still here. Yay! Hey, welcome. So Jamil posted some code, and we're going to take a look at that. So this example, I think he posted this last week. There was a question that came in around bottom sheets, I think, and text fields last week, but we couldn't get to it. It was the very end of the show. So I'm really glad that we got to it this show, and I'm really sorry it's taken another week to get to it. So this is an example of the bottom sheet with text fields inside tab and a footer with another text field. Please use a tablet simulator on landscape mode to better see the issue. Well, I have a real tablet on landscape mode. So this is the demo. When text field 1 of tab 1 is pressed and focused, the keyword appears and resizes the bottom sheet correctly. Okay, yeah. However, the footer goes over the whole content of tab 1, which causes the user not to see what's being written. Okay, so on my screen you can, but I can see that you're saying that the footer itself is getting pushed up. So the footer, is that in the bottom sheet? So effectively, what you're trying to do right now is you don't want to. So this the whole thing is that you want the footer to be covered up by the keyboard. Is that right?
It depends on if it's been added by is it the bottom map bar maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, I just want to try and understand like what his expectation of how he wants it to operate is. However, the footer will go over the whole content of tab 1, which causes the user not to see what's being written, which can happen in the situation. But the question here is it that he doesn't want the footer to be there when the keyboard is open? Is that what it's trying to do? Feel too hacky. One, try switching visibility on and off of the footer when tab 1's text field is focused. Yeah. Add resize the bottom instance false to the scaffold of the bottom sheet, and add a listener to focus mode to the text field whenever the focus, the bottom media viewing sets of bottom. This way, only the footer text field, only when the text field is focused, is lifted up to avoid the keyboard. I mean, you've got it right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, you need to keep the screen real estate available, right, for the input field. And if you need to hide things to ensure that, then that's what you need to do. And you just need to pick when and how you want to do that. So as you were saying, like, you know, when the keyboard appears, so at the moment, what's happening right now is the bottom sheet itself is being resized on your behalf, which means you don't have any option but to show it on top, right? So the first thing you need to do is turn that off. So if we go in here, I don't know if this is the one that does it, actually, this flag, but we'll find out. So if I tap on this field, no, it's not that one. Oh, it's a scaffold. He's put a scaffold in here, that's why. Yeah, and a safe area. You don't need both.
Scaffold does have a safe area, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say you definitely don't need both. Also, I'm like, you want to pick and choose when you want to use a scaffold as well. I mean,
yeah,
I don't see any reason why you need a scaffold here at all. I mean, maybe you need it for like showing the. If you're trying to show the pop-up messages, you can use scaffold. You can do some stuff with that scaffold messenger. But yeah, let's. I mean, we could keep the scaffold as you said. Was it avoid bottom inset, whatever it is, resize the bottom inset false. All right, so now the keyboard won't obscure it. So now if we go in here, there we go. Now our bottom sheet is going behind the keyboard, right? Like, but our app knows from the view insets how high this area is from the bottom to the top of the keyboard. And then we can say, oh, when it's the bottom field getting focus, then add it. So if I go find our bottom footer, what you're essentially doing in here, which is the way I would prefer to do, which I think you meant, which Jamil mentioned in this quote, which is wrap this up. I think we actually did a widget for this before, didn't we? We did like where was it? It was like a bottom
sheet. Yes.
It was one of the other examples. Hang a minute. Let me just see if I can deduce which one it is. View insets. Oh Christ. 15 for the 10th. No, it wasn't that one. This one. View insets padding. There you go. A widget that is necessary, that should be in the framework, to be honest. Anyway, right. So let's chuck this in here. Where are we? Footer? Nope. Footer. Yeah, let's chuck at the bottom. So this is again just we can now have this have an enable flag on it. Right. And then all we're doing in here is saying if it's enabled, whoops, then do that. Otherwise, edge inset 0, sure. And wrap that around our decorated box. And then this can be enabled based on the focus of the text field. So we'll need to share focus. Now you can actually do
focus scope
focus widget, but I'd gone. What were you thinking?
Focus scope of. You could do check it by like a key or something.
Yeah, I was thinking like so you can do for like right,
and you have like an internal autofocus.
Yeah, let's have.
Or actually, yeah, you could. Yeah.
So that's got focus. And then so now if you would have a scope around, where's our, okay, will this work? I mean, there's a couple of ways of doing this, right? But we could,
Yeah.
Let's just have a quick. Yeah, so keyboard covers it up, and when our input widget does it, it moves up.
Also, I'll just say too, I think, it can be easy to add a lot of text fields, but you might want to switch this to a secondary action where like you have data with an edit that then shows a minimal input bar right above the keyboard or as a dialogue or a sheet, because
it's something we spoke about earlier before you came on the show, the way that Android has the extract IME feature, which pulls out the input field to fill up the area above the keyboard, and then an enter button on the right hand side. It's been like an Android 1 for I don't know since how long.
And iOS has the same too. Yeah,
I'm not sorry.
Yeah, iOS has an equivalent too.
Yeah, I'm not sure like how I'm trying to remember, like I think it was called like extract IME. Trying to remember. Hang on. Let me just see. Android landscape input. Yeah, this is it. God, I can't believe I found that. When was this? April 2009.
Nice.
There you go. Look at that. Look at those lovely screenshots. Look at this. Oh, look. Android at its best.
Oof.
But the point still remains is this idea. This is it here, right? So when you're in landscape, you focus on the field, and then the field gets pulled out, and you get your done button or whatever, right? And yeah, we just don't have that as a feature that's built into Android, into Flutter, and because Flutter takes over the input system for its use, this becomes a problem, right? You don't get this feature from Android and from iOS for free. So I do think that maybe this is something that the Flutter team should be thinking about, right? That we should raise as because this is the kind of built-in functions and features the framework needs to have, right? Like to make a good system, right?
Yeah, and along that lines, like what I kind of do is like the web prompt confirm and alert. I implement those functions in widgets so that I try to do the prompt will show a dialogue or above the keyboard or a couple different things depending on what context or platform it's running on.
Okay, it also depends on if it's like I feel like if it's a requirement. So as I said, like if it's in landscape on a tablet, for example, then show a dialogue that gives you that input rather than
exactly. Is it a long form text field? Is it just a minimal thing? Yeah. So.
But yeah, certainly. I mean, you could also do it based on real estate available to you, right? So you can detect, see, how small is that? Is it too small? Does it over? Is it negative? Whatever. Then show this pop up and do a different approach. Sadly, this is just the nature of building apps nowadays in terms of multi screens, multiple densities.
The reason why it's important, right? Okay, so this screen looks great, iPad, may look good on phone. Now, what about the font size bumped up? You won't be able to see the submit button.
The real problem here is it's one of those things where there's such there is an effort. There's an effort. No offense, but there is an effort attached to like making something more accessible, right? For the developer, and that's got cost attached to that. Yeah, and I think one of these, one of these things is that you need to think about it from the get-go, and that's really difficult for you to work on and your code and to say, oh, it's very similar to what I say, which is don't put text inside of fixed constrained boxes on Flutter. So don't say width, 50 pixels and put text inside it, because you know what's going to happen? It's going to clip. It's going to get messed up when someone changes their font size, right? Yeah. Instead, use padding, give yourself that room, and then that way that the entire UI can respond to the person's text choices. And I think that's very similar when it comes to a lot of the rest of this. Sorry, what was this? This is basically one of the workarounds I did, but I didn't know. I don't know how it felt hacky. Like if there are more text fields as well. So what you notice what I just did down is you might have missed. So this is not the hacky version you're talking about, right? And I do appreciate that. So just flipping tack here just for a second. You notice what we've done is by adding a focus scope, and having the widgets change on their focus means that now it doesn't matter if you can have 20 text fields. You don't care about the focus node of each text field. It does literally immaterial. Now you know that anything inside of that anything inside of that pop-up would now cause it to pad to the keyboard, basically, right? So it's kind of solving it that way. I'll put this up as a gist, and then you can grab it from that. I'll fork your gist, and then I put it in the chat in just a moment, and then so we can go from there. But did you want to talk a bit more about accessibility, Rody? Or what you just talking about? I've kind of jumped in there.
Being on Material for 3 years made me think a lot about every single surface that you're on, every like modality. I mean, now in the world of AI with generated UIs and things that can change through multimodality, like you really start to have to think about your application in terms of how are people using it, what information are you trying to present or extract from the user, and like what's your ultimate outcome. Because you can make a screen that looks really pretty, but it's not accessible, because like it'll look fine on desktop, but it'd be hard to use on mobile, or with big font sizes, like now makes it like incredibly difficult to navigate. And if you start to break up your actions between data being presented and data being modified, it'll help you like see which parts are optimized for that solution, right? If you're building a form application, you're obviously text fields are going to be very important, and you're going to have like, cards and like really dense information. But like most of the time, users are only editing one piece of information at a time, unless they're filling out a form. And so when you think about that, like, how can I remove like that action to be something that can happen in a focused kind of manner? Maybe it's like throwing up a scrim, or like, just a popover, like, instead of like throwing a whole login screen, you could just do like a little drop down dialog with just an input username and password and like a login, and then open up a full one if they're needing like an advanced feature or something like that, or just a Google sign-in button. And when you start to do stuff like that, I think it just makes your code cleaner. Weirdly, one of the ways I got to that in programming for Flutter, I am a huge fan of Go Router personally. I know it's controversial and all the things, but for me, I unlocked my Flutter development when I stopped thinking about my apps as web apps with routes. When I started thinking about state, like bringing in signals and things like that, where every part of the state could be computed in the UI or any type of thing, helps you not have to map it one-to-one with what would show in a URL deep link. If you start to think about deep links as a secondary thing that you can then present and show state, it makes your life a whole lot easier. Spotify is a good example of this, right? You could create a route for every artist and detail and song and album and whatever, but Spotify is an application that when you click on it will show the correct state inside of the UI. Like you still have tab navigation, you have your player state, you have your, all the different things. But like, I feel like sometimes, at least for me, when I started doing Flutter, I just started mapping what I was doing in the web world to routes and Flutter screens. And then it's like, well, how do I share the state between these two different things? And how do I navigate back and forth? And then it just made accessibility a nightmare, because like I was trying to, create these full screen experiences, but then still have tab navigation and secondary navigation. So, yeah.
That was a lot. But that's kind of an interesting point. So you're saying that you were treating your apps as if they're like websites with like everything had to be like a deep link, or everything had to be.
Yeah.
I've always done it the opposite way.
That's funny. Yeah.
You say that, like, and I it's always a case of bring deep links in afterwards, right? Bring like why I need to link to bring that in, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's also like, it really does depend on your navigation structure, right? There's a lot of apps don't think about like clearing the stack. It's just another thing that there's actually some really good navigation pages on the Android documentation developers portal on how to do navigation for mobile apps. But that notion that you have like when you return to your top level navigation, you should be clearing your stack, things like that, where you just don't get this like infinite stack of like stuff, right? Like
yeah.
People use their app for like 20 minutes and then something back, and like just imagine, yeah, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, Reddit's one of those. Yeah.
Back to the Future.
Right. So the code from the thing that we've just been doing has been posted, and you can find that in the chat. Is a fork of the original authors. So hopefully people find it interesting. Is there? I think we're now. Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of the show now. Rody, you're more than welcome to come back, and we can do some Signal stuff if you want to.
Oh, for sure. I'll definitely happy to be back. Yeah.
I think we'll. It'd be nice to do some maybe. So actually, I'll show this briefly here. I'm not going to run it up now. I thought we would have time, but I think we run out of time today's show. We've had a lot of back and forth, but we'll just briefly show this. So I found a website called Journal Club. Journal Club is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but highly recommend. Anyway, actually, I'll bring it up. Just I'm not. They don't pay me or anything like that, but they can get the free advertising off me. I don't mind. So they basically, they can see it, the latest academic research explained in plain English, right?
Yep.
I don't have the time to go through all the research papers and understand all their particular piece of knowledge. But what they do in here is that they actually, I've been logged out apparently. But there is actually samples on there. Hang on, this is what they do. So if I can pick this up. There we go. Is they'll find something which, I mean, it could be like weight-free locks, right? Like there'll be stuff that's related on lots of different topics: trending, robotics, convolutional neural networks, model training. There's all sorts: cognitive science, natural language processing. You name like a topic, and they've got related papers right around like these things. But what's really nice about it is, if let's just choose this weight-free logs, is they'll do there's a video, there's an audio, and then this is the write-up, right? Like it is like, here's an article. If you've been around computer science for a while, you might have heard of dining philosopher's problem. If you haven't, here it is, and then they explain it, blah blah blah, and here, and then basically there's a write-up, and these are all done by experts, right? So what you're getting is experts in these fields who understand the paper, giving you that information. Anyway, so I'm not trying to advertise this thing, but this is the app. They don't have an app though, and I was like, I want to use this on my phone without going to a website, without doing this thing. I want an app. I want to get a push notification come through, be able to like listen to the audio whilst I'm walking around on my Bluetooth headphones, that kind of stuff, right? So I started doing that, and then and whilst I was doing this, I thought, you know what, I'll use Signals.
Nice.
So yeah. So in here is actually we've got there's your create effect.
Nice.
And this again, this is just, you can see here, this is a basic top level kind of, when our all state changes, let's go to we're not signed in, go to our welcome screen. When we're waiting for signing code, you go to your code screen, signed in, you go into your home screen. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways of sort of dealing with this, but it was one of those things of this worked. Right. I don't know if it's the best way of doing with it. Same as when we create our auth manager, so the backend starts up and we create our auth manager here. It sets up an effect for when we're signed in. It applies the session ID of the sign in to the API in the backend, so it like links up the two pieces together. Again, like this is just a case of the API could actually be listening to the session ID, and the session ID should be a signal in itself. Blah blah blah. So there's definitely things that we can improve here, and if you want to come back, we can take a look at this as an interesting use case. I certainly also,
I love that. Like, I don't have to explain Signals to you or anybody else for them to figure out how to use it. Like, I feel like that's the best way for an API design, is like it doesn't need a tutorial.
I think the case here is to understand. It's not about
no. I know. I'm just saying, like, it's just cool that like people can build with it without having to be like like it can take different shapes.
I've been seeing that a lot on the Discords. People come in and go, "What state management should I learn now?" And And I say, just use signals. It's just, you don't need to do anything crazier than that. And it's not much trickier than a value notifier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, you got the
Oh,
persistent
and
signals. Nice. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
actually-
that
Go
yeah,
on.
go ahead, talk about that.
No, I was just going to quickly say that. Yeah, so we also upgraded this to latest version. So I pulled over the persisted signal example that you had originally in documentation. We replaced that in the last one to use your new signals key value store.
Yeah.
Is this would you say this is the appropriate way of like using something like this?
Yeah, I actually use it with SQLite, but I just made the in-memory store for people to use. But I really like it.
Well, in this case, I created a what we created in here was a shared preferences store.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is based off your example again, right?
Yep.
Which was just okay, like here's your interface for a store, write it off, and then that can then be passed over to your persisted signals for them to write to.
Exactly.
In this case, it uses the session key here to read and write this auth state to persist the authenticated state of
it just works. Yeah.
It just works. Yeah, it just works. So whenever this is changed, boom, it's stored and next time the app starts up, it's got that value.
It's ready. Yeah.
I think we do the init, and then that's going to load the value from the persisted signal, right?
Yeah, I've done like persistent stuff before, but like when I came up with this implementation and I pulled it just out of stuff I was working on, like it made it like I'm like, oh, like the cost of a persistent to disk signal and a regular signal is just like one extra line. So yeah.
There's I actually made a persisted state package on Pub that does a bunch of this stuff. There may be some stuff in there that you might actually make sense to pull into here actually.
So one thing, this might be an interesting thing we could prototype too at some point, but I kind of want to see if I can make a version of persistent signals work with the restorable, like lower level primitives of the Flutter side of it. Like, I feel like there's some stuff there for like core primitive types. You could totally do it.
For definite. Yeah. And I think that again, this was just, anyway, when we show episodes here, there was actually, I was using, what was it? Let me just try to bring this up here. The depths here. So this is the end. I ended up doing this, which was cached episode content.
Yep.
And using a put if absent to do basically to sort of cache the future signal.
So you can do this with
you have the kind of family stuff though in the documentation, but I couldn't get to work.
There's signal container. Yeah, it's
signal container, was that the one?
Yeah.
So I was expecting this to work the same way, and it didn't work for me. So I don't know what I was doing wrong, but maybe we can investigate that as well.
Yeah.
So
also,
because that would be the appropriate way of doing the same thing, right? I mean, this works. Don't get me wrong, but equally, do these get cleaned up if they're not being accessed at a certain time? Is there like
there's a dispose at the end, but I also made them weak. So they should be able to be cleaned up.
Yeah, because the idea about this is that when we go to, there's like an episode list, and when you go between each episode, it downloads the content as lazy. But then you go back into that screen, you don't want to have to download it again. So it's going to refresh the same future signal with the same content. So
no, it would. It would do exactly that. Yeah. It wouldn't download it again. Yeah.
Well, that was I didn't mean to get that far.
Also, you were showing off the papers. Speaking of that, I sent a link.
Oh, yeah. Is this a paper that you're in or something?
Paper I wrote, and got a patent for.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'll bring this up on screen here. Yeah. Look at this. What's this?
Yeah, this is the one I made this year, but it's a AI technique for compiling applications with using graphs.
Why do I have a feeling? I think I saw this come up on my somewhere for me. Did you put this up on Twitter maybe, or
LinkedIn,
maybe
and Twitter? I think
maybe that's where it was. Yeah.
Excellent. Also, I was going to say,
chat for anyone who wants to read it.
Yeah. Feel free. Yeah, it's should be pretty easy. It does bring in quantum computing, so let me know if anybody has questions. But
yeah. Is it fun to be considered a proper published author now? Like,
it was really cool. They gave me this, which is fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Little puzzle piece. Yeah.
So that came through the company. So it was like easy. They already had like a procedure and stuff, so it made it simple.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's the end of the show, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be here same time, same place next week. And Brody, thank you very much. Oh yeah. If you want to come back next week, let us know, and we'll have you back on the show for sure.
Awesome. Right. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
More signals. Bye.